Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's 2-Minute Warning feature interview, where we take a deeper dive at the energy transition that we're seeing here, of course, in the region, but also globally, really looking at this massive push from the oil and gas sector towards decarbonization, hoping to uncover some intelligence and insights that will help our stakeholders somewhat navigate the bumpy road ahead. It's 2 minutes to midnight, and I'm joined here today with our featured guest speaker, Mohit Kaul, who is the founder of Enerdetics. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So our audience is aware, I just wanted to see if you can give a brief overview of Enerdetics, your mission, and really what you saw in terms of the value of creating this venture.
For sure. So I was not new to the energy industry. My career began in oil and gas business, where I spent most of my time developing and selling data products for that sector. Last year, exactly at this time, India was experiencing a terrible COVID outbreak. All of us were quarantined. And the second most common news beyond the pandemic was always energy transition. And that's what I focused on. I just felt compelled to take action to be part of this. So what I did was I contacted few folks that I knew in my professional network, reached out to them and essentially started doing what I would call interviews. I asked them, what's not working out for you in terms of data? Because that's the kind of business I understood the most. So my question really to them was one, what's not working out for you in terms of data? I heard several answers. Based on these interviews that I conducted, I decided that, there are going to be a lot of transactions, a lot of joint ventures, a lot of companies that will need to come together, either for capital or for technology or for expertise in general. And these would need data that tells them about what has happened in the past. What's the future going to look like? They're going to need data to base their actions on. And that's how Enerdetics began. Our mission really is to be the best energy data company in the world. We are certain that energy transition will continue to be accelerated and data will play a pivotal role, just as it did during the shale revolution in the last decade. Enerdetics is a startup and we will operate with the energy of one for many years to come. Our first product is the Energy Transition M&A database. With that, we aim to be a data partner to corporate strategy, private equity, investment banks, advisors, those teams that focus on energy transition. And by the end of this quarter, we expect to launch 2 new products that will provide high quality data to the energy business, therefore hopefully accelerating decision making, and hence there's an energy transition. So that's where we are. We hope to provide the best quality data that can help make efficient decisions.
I just wanted to touch on, one, your point at the end, but also as well earlier, is the critical role of data as important, really, you could say, a driver of this energy transition for, not just the energy sector, but across multiple sectors. Coming from, you've had experience in oil and gas and the energy industry in the past, what we've seen is that, many stakeholders are still kind of in that beginning stage of implementing digitalization roadmaps. Organizing data internally, understanding externally how to use data, analyze it, and make decisions. And then now we're talking about those same companies who are transitioning into wider energy portfolio, let's say. Do you think that there still needs to be an education process in that of the use of data and the importance of it? And for our stakeholders here, what would you say is the first steps in order to essentially embrace data and make it more tangible in a sense?
That's a good question, Brian. Now, to think of it, a few years ago, you would have started hearing the phrase, data is the new oil. That phrase became popular. And I think truly it was then, when the world began to recognize, even though very early, began to realize the value of data. The reality that data may aid in making more informed and timely decisions was accepted, a few years back, and it was accepted in a manner that it had never been previously. So people had started recognizing, the power of data and it became, what they call new oil. However, now it's very important to keep in mind that the vast bulk of world's data is unstructured, and only a minuscule amount of information gets analyzed and utilized. All firms, irrespective of the sector, all firms worldwide are missing key insights, as a result of their inability to, appropriately analyze and, utilize this unstructured data, right? So that's the first problem. And this ability to convert unstructured data into a structured representation, it's crucial. It's crucial, it's the first step in terms of utilizing data, to what you said. It's crucial, but it is still underestimated, right? So that's really the first thing that companies need to understand, that, hey, there is a vast amount of data. We may be originating it internally within our company. It may come from external sources, but it's unstructured. The first step really is to have it in a structured format. All businesses, they need a data source for any of their teams that are functioning. They definitely need data. Now they need a source that makes it easy to access the data, and it has the data that they're looking for. That's really the two dimensions of it. It's, data sources should have the data, and they should be easy to access. And I think that's where the role of data providers kind of comes in. They need to keep a track of the technological evolution. The tech world is changing so fast, right? Yeah. So an energy company may not be kind of focusing on that, but as data providers, they need to be, kind of very, very focused on what's the available technology. How can I serve my customer better? How can I help my customer uncover trends and insights that are most relevant to their business? If I just take an example, let's assume there's a corporate strategy team that's looking to make an acquisition. I'll take an example which is kind of relevant to what we do. So if they're looking to make an acquisition, they need preceding transactions, and they need to identify what transactions are really analogous to what they are looking at. Right. What were these transactions transacted at? So all of these different data points are needed. And they need sufficient number of transactions to understand the comparable metrics on which they will base their decision. And also, they need these transactions at a granular level so that they are exactly sure that, all right, this is what we can base on decision on. This is where the role of a data provider is really critical, because, they are going to stitch all of these jigsaw puzzle together for them, and then, provide them a platform that helps to use the data. I think more so than the energy companies, a lot of the onus is on the data providers to ensure that they can provide, the best data that's available using technology. The energy company side, or anyone else, really needs to embrace the fact that there is a lot of unstructured data that we are missing. Let's try to get that, and let's try to make more informed decisions. So I think that's really the first step, on this journey of digital adoption in the wider energy space.
I just wanted to follow up with that too. One, on the question, especially coming from a data provider standpoint, and obviously unstructured data is the size of the universe at the end of the day. It's massive. Where you see technical or technology innovations occurring, that is making that more accessible, but also the role that trust plays in standardization of, we're talking about sources, and, of course, making strategic decisions requires sound data that's provided, that is trustworthy and transparent at the end of the day. I think what we're seeing, even in the business community and in the world today, there's, sometimes lacks in certain areas. But yeah, if you can just touch on the acceleration of technology that we've seen that, enable structuring those unstructured data sets, and then as well, the role of standards and transparency behind that data.
Surely. That's again, it's a very relevant question, and transparency is the key, because, you don't want to base your analysis, your decision on a number that you don't understand, or you don't understand where did it come from. So I think on that, I would say 2 points. The first one being, as data providers, we often try to kind of hide behind, what our sources are, do not reveal them. Yeah. That's not needed. We can always be flexible on that. At Enerdetics, we do that. We always share our sources with our users. We kind of tell them, where did this number come from? And if we get two contradictory numbers, we often try to understand what's the right number to use.
Well, the value is in structuring that, right? You can have the sources, but packaged together,
Yes.
it's a
And
massive value proposition.
it's a massive value proposition because as you said, it's all unstructured. If you get 1,000 pieces of paper, you're not going to make sense of it. But if somebody gives you the same data in 10 columns and 10 rows, it suddenly just starts making sense. And that's where technology comes in, right? It could be as simple as a spreadsheet, which people would use, and it could be as complicated as visualization software such as Power BI, Spotfire, Tableau. All of them are become really common in the business community as such, right? And then again, once you get into big data and things like that, it becomes technologically even more challenging and sophisticated. And that's where I would say, a lot of AI and machine learning comes in, where you want your system to learn the data, and based on these millions of data points that you're feeding into it, give you reliable kind of outcomes. And on that as well, it becomes really important to kind of understand how the algorithms are structured, not necessarily the code that's written, but what's the structure, what's the philosophy of an algorithm that you in a very fancy way call artificial intelligence. But it's really important to kind of explain to the consumers that, hey, this is the philosophy on what we run the AI. This is, these are kind of our limitations in which it's done. So it starts really from a spreadsheet. A lot of people underestimate the power of a spreadsheet, and it goes all the way up to machine learning and AI,
Right.
with some really cool visualization softwares in the middle.
Now, just in terms of course, this is the providing aspect, but on the receiving side, there needs to be the ability to, as you mentioned, even if it's 10 rows of an Excel sheet, understand data and make a decision off of that. Are you seeing in the energy sector that there still is kind of room to grow in terms of attracting talent that can essentially digest this data in a way? The younger generation is probably more data technologically savvy. Are you seeing there's still a gap in that space right now?
Uh, if you asked me this question maybe 5 years ago, my answer would be definitely yes. But now I think even maybe COVID kind of accelerated it, where
Yeah.
people became more and more comfortable with technology. I have seen that change. Especially if I was talking to somebody in 2015, their perception of using tools, their perception of consuming data was very different as it's on 2022, right? Especially even in the energy space, which I always believe was a few years behind actually where the technology was. I think the acceleration has happened in terms of availability of, let's say, an analyst or humans, or interest of having the right human resources in place. That gap has been bridging, has been bridged in the last few years. And also some credit there to software providers or software as a service kind of companies who have really created these tools in such a user friendly manner that somebody who's kind of apprehensive or resistive to change just finds it so comfortable on day zero that the digital adoption is becoming really, really quick. So 5 years ago, definitely yes. Now I think the shift is there, and I think a couple of years down the line, it would even seem more beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you said, COVID may have accelerated digital capacity and capabilities as well. I remember at the beginning, we went virtual meetings, of course, with some stakeholders here in the region. It might have taken 30 minutes to figure out how to turn on a camera. But I just wanted to take a step back and really just get your overall insights, a high level picture. What have been, some of your key observations with regards to renewable energy assets globally during the past 12 months?
Brian, the renewable energy space in general, it has been continuously evolving. The costs were always a challenge, so they were evolving. And over the last few years, I would say, primarily due to influx of different types of investors, the emergence of new markets, and also the clarity with regards to what are the challenges that are impacting the sustainable build out of renewables, right? Those three things, right? The investors, emergence of new markets, and clarity on challenges. I think those are the three things that in the last few years, we have noticed a lot of trends on that are changing in a, of course, in a very positive way. We are seeing massive leaps in technology, right? Companies are trying to pursue better economical ways to produce clean energy. Everybody wants to boost, their green footprint. So on the technology side as well, there have been leaps and leaps of changes. Let's take solar as an example, right? Historically, power producers have gravitated towards large scale, utility scale power plants that would just supply energy, to the national grid. However, now land availability is a major constraint, right? The cost of electricity is a constraint. So you want to have demand centers very close to the production centers. So all of these challenges are kind of fragmenting the solar industry. There is this large scale power plants, but now you also see so many smaller rooftop solar installations, right? And also then, if you talk about land constraint, moving offshore is an option. And floating solar is kind of becoming, very, very attractive. And it's very interesting. The term in the industry that's coined for it is photovoltaics. So it's a very interesting term, and they offer their advantages, right? There is lesser evaporation of water. The cooling, of the panels due to being in water, improves their efficiency. So we're seeing all of these trends technology-wise. If you look at wind, again, offshore is gaining importance just because the economy of scale works out really well. These are massive gigawatt projects that are being built offshore, and we are seeing very experienced names like Ørsted, RWE, Iberdrola. Those are the traditional power producers. But then we're also seeing the oil and gas majors such as Shell, Equinor, Total. They are making big bets on offshore wind as well. So those are some trends that we are seeing on wind and solar side. But innovation at this level is widespread, right? I'll give you an example. There is so much fusion of technologies that is happening. A very simple example: there are large industrial plants that couple carbon storage with bioenergy. The term there is bioenergy with CCS. They call it BECCS for short. Now, this is interesting. Bioenergy, CCS technologies all coming together. Fantastic, right? So those are some technological evolution that's happening not on the more popular solar and wind side, but some of these niche sectors. Storage comes to mind as well. Now people talk about batteries, great, but then there is compressed air energy storage. There is thermal storage. All of these storage, kind of tech evolution is kind of giving birth to all of these technologies that are helping on the storage side. And I think all of them kind of need to come together for a sustainable energy transition. And last point on that, let's just look at geographies. The United States dominates, the global landscape, and obviously because of the availability of capital, stable political and fiscal regime, ease of adoption. However, now there are so many new markets that are emerging.
India is driving a massive energy transition push.
If you look, if you look at India, in this region, Taiwan, Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, they are attracting investments. You look at, the Baltics in the Europe, you look at Chile in Latin America, and these countries have realized, and what they're doing is that their regulatory regimes are very attractive now, especially, for renewable energy to encourage, people from moving away from coal and into renewable energy. So, some of these newer markets are coming up as well. And and all of these countries, if you look at the data, they have ambitious targets, right? We are going to be carbon neutral by whatever XYZ years, and those are driving kind of investments in the whole regime. So I think the tech world, the technology, as well as the regulatory regime, those are two areas that we would see in the future as well, a lot of evolution to kind of support the energy transition.
And especially like you've mentioned, multiple times, the tech space, making things more cost competitive as well, helping to really figure out that equation of people, planet, and profit, which I think there's a lot of organizations and countries that are trying to balance that out, but definitely accelerating. I just wanted to get your take on, we mentioned markets and technology, different spaces, and so forth. where do you see the role of strategic partnerships? Of course, you've seen many acquisitions, of course, through the platform. Do you see those strategic partnerships accelerating and being a main driver of this transition and a key pillar to it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is a very interesting question, especially because there are a lot of trends that I've personally observed that we can talk about here. But let's kind of try to focus on a few things at a very top level. There is a race that companies have to consolidate their positions in the mature markets and simultaneously establish their footprint in the emerging markets. At a very top level, that's what's driving the trend. Now, to understand this better, let's categorize, the players into different categories, right? Let's look at power producers. Let's look at private equity firms. Let's look at the traditional oil and gas companies, and then let's look at technology specialists. Now, the power producers have a natural advantage, due to their legacy business capabilities. They're integrated into transmission and distribution grids. So they have emerged as preferred partners in the mature markets, right? They have the presence really built. So, however, they do not have often access to the capital base like some of the oil and gas or the private equity firms have. So that's where some partnerships are commonly observed. Also, look at the oil and gas companies. They have significant project development expertise, especially for, let's say, carbon capture or offshore wind, right? Because they've been operating offshore for many years. So oil and gas companies are seen usually to tie up with either a private equity firm or a renewable energy producer, and just take up these more challenging, hostile offshore environments. Then you look at the technology specialists, very interesting fraction of companies. They possess targeted capabilities that can leverage certain projects, right?
Right.
And hence you generally see them partnering either with oil and gas company that does not have the technical expertise, or some of the private equity sponsors, some of the energy companies in general, that have the capital and the expertise to kind of execute the technology solution that they offer. And then the last category here would be, the private investment firms. Now, their involvement has, kind of very drastically shifted. Typically private equity firms, they have a horizon on their investments of about 5 to 7 years. So historically, they avoided renewable energy assets. Fast forward today, you are seeing large investors as Macquarie, Greencoat, Copenhagen Investment Partners. They are taking direct stakes in operational and under development assets. They are partnering with oil majors. They are partnering with technology specialists, to just at the bidding stage as well. Hey, here's an offshore bid round, and you see a PE firm, a technology specialist, and an energy company coming together. So this is how, we see a lot of partnerships happening, if you just categorize companies differently. And, if you just look from a perspective of one company's portfolio build out patterns, let's take Shell. Shell is one very interesting portfolio. They have a very interesting portfolio build out strategy. They have acquired technology specialists, they have acquired developers, and they have acquired power lead retailers across the globe. Now, with a very, very clear ambition, they want to be part of the entire life cycle. They want to be involved from project origination, development, to operations, to retail. That's how they have kind of built their portfolio. And similarly, not just Shell, but if you generally look at the oil and gas companies and the private equity firms, they have created a lot of strategic JVs to enter new markets. One example would be, Total and Macquarie. They collaborated for offshore wind in Japan. Right. So
it's an interesting partnership. Yeah.
It's very interesting partnership. Everybody comes from different geographies coming together into, a geography that kind of helps the business. So it's very interesting to look at it that ways as well.
I just wanted, this might be a side tangent, but you mentioned technology specialists, and we had a conversation with some stakeholders in Saudi Arabia last week. Are you seeing that from the technology side, what's driving, or what would be a key driver of the transition, is already legacy technology being deployed, or is it more of new innovations, SMEs, smaller, specialists that will really drive it? Are you seeing it's kind of a balance of both at the moment?
balance of both, depending on, what frontier they are targeting. Some of the more offshore challenging scenarios will see, some more experienced players. And then if you come to the other side where you are, on the solar rooftop and, kind of simpler projects to execute, there definitely, there is a lot of interest from the smaller, newer entrants as well.
Right.
And it all makes a lot of sense at a conceptual level, right? As there is a build out of renewable energy generating assets, the demand for associated services will rise at a proportionate rate, right? The largest of the transactions in 2021 were multi-billion dollars, and they, involved, these service companies. They could be OEMs, they could be operation and management kind of companies, they could be project development companies. The largest deal, I think, if I recall correctly, was $3 billion, right, for a services company. And as the penetration of distributed energy sources in domestic power grids increases, the need for these services such as grid management, load balancing, this is going to increase. Further, companies can install and operate small scale power plants now and control a significant share of the renewable market. So that's where we see, a lot of smaller entrants, coming and growing the customer base as well.
Well, we have to wrap up. It seems that 20 to 30 minutes actually goes by pretty quickly. But I just wanted, as a closing kind of comment, just to get your over the horizon quick viewpoint. What type of deals do we or should we expect to see over the next few years? What is your outlook in a sense?
For sure. I think I'm very robust on the private equity space, kind of getting more and more active with their dollars, putting their dollars on this side. As the costs come down, the technology improves, I think the IRRs will be and are very, very favorable for, very attractive for the private equity investments. I also believe that the oil and gas companies transitioning into energy companies, they will have a significant role to play in the more difficult offshore frontiers. And I would definitely see a lot of strategic JVs on that side, where you see an oil and gas company along with power producers, a traditional power producer, operating in offshore, either for wind or solar. So, those are some of the trends that we definitely see coming up. Last year, there was a very interesting deal. And then, before we wrap up, I'll just talk about that. I think it was MGT Solar. They acquired 160 megawatts portfolio of solar and energy assets in South Africa. What's interesting about that deal was the construction of the portfolio will be funded by a cryptocurrency called MGT token, which is backed by the portfolio's corporate power purchase agreements. The token guarantees a return of 3,000% or, a number like that. So I don't know if that will be a trend or was that an outlier, but it's very interesting to see how innovative this space has been and will continue to be. So I think whatever predictions we make right now, I would not be surprised if we are surprised a few years down the line.
Well, I imagine we could probably talk for a lot longer, especially that you brought in the crypto partnership there and see where that might go. But thank you very much, Mohit Kaul, founder of Enerdetics, for joining the show today and sharing your insights. For those listening to the podcast right now, or of course watching it on our social media, please feel free to follow Mohit and his company online for further insights. And also please follow Gulf Intelligence on Twitter and LinkedIn, where we will be publishing this interview. Thank you very much, Mohit. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Brian. Very nice talking to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.